Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am joined by my co-host, Christy.
I am well, Lake. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. We have a fun cruise to talk about. It is actually your cruise, Christy.
It is my cruise. But as you would say, we're not alone. We're bringing in a third guest, our very chatty friend, Amy, who packs all of the things into her cruise. And she basically did the same cruise I did, but she got a sea day out of it. She was on the sailing before mine. And so we thought it would be fun to sort of do this show together because they do a lot more activities than I do. But I really wanted, when we re-talked about Lighthouse Point, to get her first impressions of Lighthouse Point. Welcome back to the show, Amy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're talking about a 3-day sailing for Christy and a 4-night sailing for Amy. And this was also out of Fort Lauderdale, which was a first for both of you.
Yeah, new terminal, but out of Fort Lauderdale versus Miami. I have cruised out of there before, but yeah, this is my first time.
Well, we're definitely going to spend a little bit of time talking about embarking out of Fort Lauderdale. But Amy, you have a little bit of pre-cruise to talk about. Why don't you go ahead and hit on that real quick?
Okay. So, of course, we know we're going to Florida. We're coming from Michigan, so we want to optimize our time. We're going to fly to Florida, enjoy our time there. So we did, and we're DVC, so we stayed on DVC points for the first 3 nights and did 3 park stays. The first one was great, Epcot, one of my favorites. We bought the Lightning Lane multi-pass. Is that the word?
Yeah, I was about to call it Genie Plus, so.
Let's just go back and call it Fast Pass.
Yeah, so
yes.
We pulled the papers from the machine. So yeah, so we traveled DVC. We use our points. Stayed at Beach Club. It was myself and my husband and our 13-year-old son, who will be 14 on Saturday.
Soon.
On the 7th. Yeah. Days. Yeah. So we went, and also for the parks part of it, my friend Michelle and her husband and nephew were also with us. So it was like a party of 3, a party of 6, a party of 3 again. So it was fun. So we flew down. We dropped our bags at Epcot or at a Beach Club and flew right out the door to Epcot. Had a great day. Funnest part of that day was meeting you, Christy, for our fireworks cruise from Epcot, which if anyone hasn't done that, you just walk over to the yacht club and you could have up to 10 people on a little private boat ride. And we got to go see the fireworks from a private viewing area.
I forgot that was the first day of your trip.
We got rained on. We had ponchos. We had umbrellas. We had umbrellas and ponchos. Then we had none of it. Then we had some of it. And then it was fine. We managed to get it all done. We got on Remy. We got on Frozen. Frozen had been down. And as we were approaching it, I saw it was up. And I just saw this mob of people running to Frozen. And so I'm like, hurry up, we gotta go. And as we left it, the line was so crazily long. We got Guardians twice. It's our favorite. I love Guardians so much. It was the same song twice, though, the Flock of Seagulls song. One day I'll get September. We have not had September yet. And then that was our first day. Then the second day was our Halloween party, also very rainy.
Very rainy that day.
Yeah.
So rainy that people got refund.
Well, they didn't refund me, but they gave me a free park ticket, a 1-day ticket. So I will go again sometime within the next year. I have a 1-day ticket to make up for it because the first parade had gotten rained out because we went at 4. We had gotten some rides before, but I tell you, if it's going to rain and you're going to be at a party, it's almost just best to and you see it happening, is to stay by Tomorrowland because you've got the people who are right there and they'll let you stay on if it's not busy. And then Buzz is right there and then Space is right there. So there's a few things to do, and Cosmic Rays has a ton of seating. So I kind of saw it coming on my app. And I was like, here it comes. And so we kind of ran to Cosmic Rays and sat inside for a while. So it was good. And then like the crazy people we are, because we were up, we managed to stay, and do our best, try to make the best of the night. But so we're up pretty late. But the next day we did the 4 parks in 1 day challenge, which is crazy, but we did it. It was Animal Kingdom. And then our goal was basically a ride, a snack, and a photo. So we got our photo by the icon. It just started as we had a hopper well, let's just do Epcot and Hollywood Studios. They're on the Skyliner. It'll be great. Our hotel's right there. And then with all the changes coming to Animal Kingdom, I said, well, we got to ride Dinosaur one more time before it closes. And then if we're doing that, we might as well try to get to Tiana's and do all 4 parks. So it just kind of grew from there. We had, our 4 parks t-shirts, and it was a fun day. And we did it. We got all 4 parks, a snack in each park, a photo in each park. We used bus, monorail, boat, Skyliner. And I think we used a lift in the morning. So 5 kinds of transportations. And that's right, every single one. And then we celebrated at the end of the night with our Ogas with my Star Wars.
So let's turn this towards the cruise. We are sailing out of Fort Lauderdale, which is a little bit more than the hop and a skip that Port Canaveral is. So why don't you both tell us about how you got down to the port and what your embarkation process was like and what you overall thought of this port?
Yeah, so we decided we didn't rent a car. We just used all Disney transportation and left to get around. And so I had looked into it and decided we would take the new Brightline train from Orlando down. So it was fine. Our Lyft driver didn't know how to get to the airport, I guess, but we were a little bit delayed. I had allowed a nice half hour. He drove into some parking garage, kind of around and around, and somebody directed him in there. Then he couldn't figure out his way out. So by the time we did check in, this is a tip for anyone taking Brightline. It says you have to be there. I think the website said 20 minutes early to have your bags checked. And we had actually paid to check our bags, which I don't know if we really needed that because there is space for big luggage in the carts where you sit like on a rental car bus, and they have like that rack to all the luggage. They have one in every cart. In retrospect, we probably didn't need it, but we got there. I had allowed 45 minutes. And by the time the mix up, we only were there checking in at like 22, 23 minutes early, but they wouldn't let us check our bags. So we got to lug our bags, which worked out fine. We didn't have to get them at the end or whatever. And I did call and get them refunded because they were going to just give me a credit. So if you're going, make sure you check your luggage 30 minutes early if you're going to go. It was over. It was awesome. I mean, it was just uneventful, very on time, clean. They kept coming through with a little cart. Do you want to buy any snacks? Do you have any trash? Do you have any trash? And they kept going back and forth, and they had little snacks and stuff available. And it was nice because there was a bathroom there. No one had to drive. We just sat and read. It was a nice trip down to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's good. We don't have, obviously Brightline is new. There hasn't been a lot of talk about using it. So how did you get to the port from the train?
So then we spent the night at a hotel. So we
the pretty hotel.
That pretty hotel with a beach front. And we got upgraded, which was nice. So it kind of had that Juliet balcony that opened up and you could see and hear the ocean, which was amazing, right on the beach. So it was, we walked down at one point in the evening for a little while, got some seashells and stuff, enjoyed the evening. And then in the morning, we took a lift to the port. So got my airline miles, Lyft links with my American Express. So a few miles.
And what did you think of the port itself?
It was very easy. It was very pretty, very, it had the Disney walkway to get in, Disney people gathering, greeting you, signs, go this way, go that way. It was very smooth. We got there just at our port arrival time, which is nice to not get there too early because you end up just sitting. Had a nice breakfast and just kind of leisurely morning and then made our way there. And it was like we sat down. I started look at the navigator on my phone and it was time to board. So it was a very smooth process to get from, a lift in the parking garage all the way up to onto the ship.
All right. And Christy?
Yeah, we drove. So we got up that day and drove. And I think we left at around 8:15, maybe 8:30. And it was a pretty uneventful drive. I feel like it always rains outside like West Palm Beach area. Like always, like I don't know if I've ever driven to South Florida and had it not rain, and it rained, but it was otherwise uneventful. Getting there was easy. I remembered right before we arrived that you need to show your passports as you're pulling into the port, and you need your port arrival form because it's all a secured area. You have to show your information. And then parking was very easy. Just a tip, it tells you several times that you'll pay for parking before you leave the terminal. Like you have to take your ticket to either the first floor or the fifth floor. So just remember to have your ticket on your person so that when you come back, you can go to the first floor or the fifth floor to pay for your parking when it's time to leave. And I think it was like $20 a day, which also felt like a reasonable amount of money for parking in a major city. You're just right there. And Disney adds the little touches. Like they actually had some of the art from, who is it? Joey Chu, maybe, who did the art that is on the Wish in the kids club. Like that type of art was on the wall walking into the port. It was very cute. They still have the Mickey ears that you walk through. I do think, though, that boarding was a little bit late. Like, I think they called the first group around 11:45 or the first sets of groups or whatever. So I felt like it was late. Yeah, but it was really smooth and really nice. I felt like there was a ton of lines in space. I will say that at this port, well, I guess it's like this at Port Canaveral, but I think it almost works out better at Fort Lauderdale. They do, if you're in concierge, they do sort of, and the line is already starting to move, they do sort of leapfrog you around. And so for this particular cruise, my family was in concierge. I was cruising with my husband and our 11-year-old. And you guys, if you need an intro price to concierge, you got to look at like these fall sailings. It was a really good price. Just something to keep in mind if it was something you wanted to try someday.
Ours was a good price, late August also. So I'm looking here, we were in line to like get our stuff checked at 11:31. Our port arrival time was like 11:15 to 11:30. So 11:31 we were here, and then we were going up the escalator that said to the ship by 11:49. Yeah, and then we were on the boat at 11:52. I have that video of them greeting us as we walk on. Yeah, it was fun.
You just forget on the Magic how small she is. I think you walk in that atrium and you're just like, yes, she's cute. She's petite.
Well, our previous ship had been on the Wonder. So it felt like about the same, which I thought this was kind of a fun way. We were familiar with the layout of the Wonder. Let's just go right to the Magic next. Yeah, like you said, this was affordable. I mean, we literally back to back. So I went Monday through Friday, and then we must have passed in the airport. As I was getting into the airport, you were getting into the port, the ship. Yeah.
What kind of cabin did you guys book?
We had a 7th floor aft balcony room, the regular, not the family size, the regular balcony. Yeah. For the three of us, it was perfect.
And Christy, what kind of cabin did you and your family have?
We were in a family veranda. So the concierge family veranda on deck 8.
Well, why don't we just take a moment to talk about the Magic itself a little bit? It is an older ship, oldest in the fleet, but man, do I think it has all of the charm.
It does. My issues with the Magic stem around the bathroom and only the bathroom in the cabin. The curtain was an attack curtain in my opinion. It just didn't stay where it belonged. The cabin bathrooms are noticeably to me smaller than on the other ships. And that makes my decision to cruise the Magic come into question in the future just for my own self. It was also weird, Amy, did you have when you walked in your bathroom with the shower, a curtain that was decorative and had no other purpose but to just take up room in the bathroom?
Yeah, it had like a little tied off to the side.
Yes.
And then it had the shower curtain that attacked you.
Yes.
But if you got it to stick like static or suction to the shower, it was fine.
Yeah, ours would just keep coming in, and like the grab bar was exactly where I needed to be in order to shower, which is a problem I find on the Wish. So this is like the dumbest impression, right? The dumbest comments, but that was like the one thing I was grateful that it was a shorter cruise, so I didn't have to take as many showers.
It's funny because I don't cruise as much as you, and that didn't bug me or wasn't as noticeable.
Oh,
we've been on the Wish in 23, but then having been on the Wonder in August, and then now on the Magic this August, it just seems like, oh, this is the cruise ship bathroom. This is what we do. And I really liked how in the toilet sink bathroom that they had all those little shelves, so I could put all my stuff out. I love it.
This is clearly the room they wanted you to get ready in. Doors to the bathroom, I promise we're almost done with the bathroom discussion, but they open into the cabin, which is like every other ship, they open out. Well, I don't know. The Wonder, I'm assuming, is the exact same, but they open out into the cabin. Like we were just on the Fantasy and we were just on the Wish. And so that like takes up more space, and that already very crowded bathroom is now even more in there as well.
It's the first ship. So it sailed in 1998, 98, 08, 18. I mean, it's not quite 30 years. I mean, how aren't most cruise ships like 25 usually? Is that's the age they last to?
Well, and she had her 25th birthday last summer.
Right.
And so who knows, right? And who knows if that's true. And the Wonder is essentially the same, right? But she must have something that allows her to do Trans-Pacific cruises. But like all the public spaces, everything is still almost brand new, right? Like if you don't look closely at the shower, because frankly, my shower needed like a regrout situation. Like besides stuff like that, Disney does such a good job keeping their ships up. It is remarkable what they can do to just make them look like they're new.
Agree. It was beautiful. Every space, like every lounge, every carpet, it felt brand new. It felt beautiful. So yeah, I think someone had mentioned like the doors aren't as magnetic because there's so many layers of paint, and I could maybe see that. Like some of my magnets didn't stick as well, and also like the doors to the bathroom, you had to really push them to get them closed, like they had been painted and the layers of paint. But it was beautiful. I mean, maybe we saw a little rust here and there, but maybe my rose-colored glasses just had me looking the other way because it was beautiful, beautiful ship.
She was stunning. And one of our podcast listeners was on the cruise as well, and she was on another Patreon member. Yes. And they were in a 1-bedroom. And I know we had talked about this last year, like when we would do cabana shows and stuff, but that 1-bedroom was redone, and it is the most stunning cabin ever. Like I'm going to actually put up a reel by the time this episode airs. It is just light and spacious and amazing. So the redo of the cabins were just really well appointed and thought out. And like the bathrooms were great, and the showers, and it had like a big dreamy tub in the bathroom. They really did a really good job.
That's nice. Yeah, we loved our room. It was great. I mean, I guess I'll see when I do the Treasures, our next sailing. So we'll have a the oldest to the newest.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, that'll be our. Yeah, this is
going to be in the same boat.
Yeah, same boat. This was our 5th cruise. So our Grand Slam, like I was starting to say, is complete. And then until the Treasure, and then we'll be one behind, but then we'll sail on that. So it's fun.
Awesome. Well, moving forward, let's talk about dining just a little bit here. We're going to do highlights. So why don't you talk about your highlight dining room, highlight meal, and if we did any specialty dining. And then I really want to dive into Lighthouse Point here.
Okay. So the first night we actually skipped main dining and just kind of snacked a little. And we did prima notte at Palo, which was amazing. I think there was only 10 people. I don't know if that's normal. It was this tiny little group of people in a little tiny room off to the side. Actually, there was only 8 people because there was an empty table there. So there was only 8 of us, and it was a lovely experience. That's, and then for people that don't know, you're greeted with a glass of champagne or Prosecco, and then they give you 4 different small plates to taste. And then they are wines, and then they pair it with a food. So you can taste like the wine by itself and then the wine with a snack. And then I don't eat beef. So they brought me ravioli instead. I just told them, was there any restrictions? I said, I don't eat beef. And they brought me one of those. It was really good. One with the pine nuts on it. It's like we had that when we had brunch previously. So it was our first night dining. And then at the end of the night, we ended up having a slice of pizza and watching some movie on the pool deck. And then we got lucky and had 2 nights in a row at Rapunzel. One with Rapunzel menu in the show, which is that's like the best show. It is so good. Really good show. And those I don't know what you don't call them pirates. Who are those guys? Those like thug guys that greet you at the entrance. They're great. Like, and they were coming around. They tried to scare my kid, and it was just a great eating at Rapunzel's. Actually, our first day we got on board, we did team sit down, and we ate at Rapunzel's for lunch as well. So that was delicious. And then our last night at Lumiere's is one of my favorites, and that salmon with horseradish encrusted salmon. And then you can do the same potato trick from the Wish at Lumiere's. Yeah, and then he brought 4 stacks of them. He was like, "Oh, here we go. Let's just bring you 4 stacks." And we couldn't eat them all. They were delicious. So we all had
scalloped potatoes.
Yes, the Dauphinese, or however you say it, like scalloped potatoes, and they're delicious. So that was a great experience. Dining was good. And then that was dining, and then we did have a bourbon tasting that we tried. It turns out I like my bourbon in a old fashioned, but which is I like an old fashioned, but the bourbon straight up, I needed a tiny bit of water, but I learned a lot. It was fun to learn, like, you just taste, you don't really know exactly what you're tasting. I knew a little more about wine tasting, and it was a fun experience to learn, like just putting a couple drops of water in kind of smoothed it out, took some of that burn away and made it nicer. But in an old fashioned is even better.
For us, I think the highlight dining, it's hard to say because, classic animators, right? That show is so good. And then you get the do, 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 and you get the surprise at the end. And it's just like, it's really great. But it's got to be Rapunzel's. The show is good. The music is good. We had our seating was right on the stage, but it was the immediate table next to it. So we just got to see the musicians singing and playing, and it was just, and then obviously when Rapunzel and Flynn shows up, all of that. We had such a good view of it all. It was really, that restaurant is special. They do a really good job.
The lanterns and the stage and just everything even the carpet is like lanterns and the flower that's on the lanterns. Yeah, it's a great restaurant. I loved it there.
Oh, and the kids menu turns into a lantern. So, and let me just give a tip for people with kids that might be picky or might just want a certain thing. My son, I feel like he will eat one thing, whatever he eats the first night of the cruise, I feel like he eats the rest of the cruise. However many nights the cruise is, this is what he does. So it was like mac and cheese, maybe in the summer. And this cruise, he had the adult spaghetti bolognese from Animators the first night, and it was so good for him. He gets it with no Parmesan. He doesn't want the garlic bread. Strange child. And so he got that the next 2 nights. And it was very easy for it to be pre-ordered from our dining team. They were phenomenal. Oh my gosh, they were so good. And so he just, ate his. So his highlight was his bolognese every night for dinner. And for me, of course, I love it when I'm on the original 4 ships that I get to have fried brie. So I did try to order this potato crepe vegetarian option the day before because it had like eggplant and a bunch of vegetables that I really liked in it, and goat cheese. Like there's a lot of goat cheese on this ship. I feel like there was a lot of ingredients, meals with goat cheese on it, but they could not make that for me. So I pre-ordered it and our waiter said, I tried, but no, they said absolutely not. Okay. So, but he did get, I did tell him everybody gets fried brie, like every ship that offers it can make it for me. So please tell them not to say no. And I had it like right basically when it was the start of dinner almost. They had our appetizers down. Our last night, half of our servers' tables didn't show up. And so we got done with dinner so quickly because he was so quick. And because half of our orders were pre-orders, they just they were on it. And he's like, we need something to do. So it was really nice because we got to talk to our servers for a really long time that meal. And, on a 3-night cruise, I feel like you don't always get that bonding relationship with your servers. And this time we did. Even the previous night, they were talking to us about the table that was next to us that was in a section. This was like, these little girls were little, and this was like their 3rd cruise or something with the server. Like the one little girl was maybe 2 or 3, and she fell asleep in her plate basically the last night. The kids just slept. But they had bonded so much even at such a short age or such a small young age. Yeah. And so then the server was telling us about them. And so then it was just really cute. It's really nice when stuff like that happens.
This is not totally related, but we had a little on our Alaska cruise. There were these 2 little boys, and every single night they'd order noodles and they fall asleep at the table, and we call them the Noodle Boys. And so we were on this cruise, and my kid's like, you're not going to believe it. The Noodle Boys were on the elevator. I can't believe it. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, I could tell the parents were the same, and the kids were a little bigger than they had been. So we had Noodle Boys on our cruise again this year. So.
Oh my God, that's so fun.
Funny, yeah. Like you travel late August like we do.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Speaking of getting to know people on Disney cruises.
Well, moving on, let's take a quick moment to talk about entertainment. Give us a couple of your highlights that you did aboard the ship.
So the first night, that's why we had skipped dinner, because going to Prima Notte, you have to choose, like if you're going to eat dinner, then you're going to miss the show. And I had never seen Twice Charmed. I didn't even know the whole story. I thought it was just the Cinderella story. And then once it got started, I'm like, oh, this is a fun twist on it. And I really liked it. All of us really liked it. So it was all three of us went. And of course, Rapunzel, it's just awesome. And Rapunzel was on the night we were at Rapunzel. So it was just very
nice.
All looped. It was great. I had a purple shirt on. I matched the restaurant and the menu. And not that was planned or anything. We have a picture, if I get my pictures, of us with Lantern. That was pretty fun. And then Inside Out, we took a nap instead, because we had the bourbon tasting at 10:15 p.m. So I was like, I don't know if I can stay up that late. It is past my bedtime. So that day we had seen Inside Out at home. It would have been fun to see it again. And then the last night, Disney Dreams, which we love. I know we're seen it a bunch of times, but we like it. We like all the music. Sorry, this is not really technically entertainment. I guess it's entertaining. We did the strudel class. That chef came out, executive pastry chef, and he was so amazing. I was just like watching him like have this like bowl of dough with the olive oil. And the next thing you know, it was like bigger than my torso, and it was all spread out on this like piece of fabric. And he made the apple strudel, and then we all got to taste it. So it's kind of fun to hear him talk about how we have a panel of 10 people. And if 6 people or more vote, yes, we like it, then we will add it to the menu. And then the 4 people that didn't like it, we find out what they didn't like about it, and we try to tweak it, and then we retaste it again. So like that whole process was just kind of interesting to hear. So that was another kind of fun thing that we hadn't done before.
Was that the Anyone Can Cook seminar?
It was. I wanted to do the ravioli one like you did, but I kind of dug through all the old navigators, and it seems like that's only on a 7 night that you can get the ravioli one. You get the strudel, the apple strudel on the shorter cruises, which was still fun. It was awesome. But one day, next cruise, probably 7 nights.
Yeah, we really enjoy the Anyone Can Cook presentations. We did the ravioli, but missed the strudel one.
It was fun. It was good. And then he talked about how they serve it and what they recommend to serve it with, the vanilla cream or the vanilla ice cream, or also acceptable would be butter pecan. It was just kind of fun to hear that perspective.
Christy, how did you and your family spend time aboard the ship?
Well, I feel like we spent most of our free time. I mean, Blake went to the edge on occasion, but with people. There were just various groups of people that we knew on board. Paulo, we forgot to talk about Paulo with dinner. Dining. I am going to talk about this because this is how we spent some of our time, because Paulo took like 3 hours for brunch. And like we literally were at the very beginning of the Paulo seating, and we were there to the very end of the Paulo seating. Like there was only 2 people left, and our brunch started at 11. So just after that first, it was really long. But somebody had just said, was it on our podcast or was it on a different one, that their chicken was undercooked at Paulo for the chicken parmesan? Like, Did we say, was it one of ours? So it was a different.
I'd heard it too. And then had, that's a spoiler alert, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'd heard
my chicken was undercooked, which they were fine and they took it back. It just, everything took a really long time. And they did say, so we were on the Magic for people with gluten allergies. They did say that like the bread would be cross-contacted, but they could make the breading. So who knows why that was different. The breading was the best breading ever, but that they couldn't like give me bread because there would be cross-contamination from the bread oven. But I'm like, there's other bread on the ship that's gluten-free. And then like eventually they brought me bread, but it was like an hour later. So I don't know what my luck is with Paulo meals that isn't Prima Notte the last 2 times, but the meal was otherwise very good. It was just very long. But one of my entertainment days was eating brunch with friends. And it was really good that we all got along because we were there forever. We could like communicate and have a conversation for so many hours. Yeah, that was really good. We listened to live music whenever we could. And like there was a woman on the last day who played at the pool, at the adults only pool, like almost all afternoon. And I actually took a nap listening to her outside, and just Dave and I just sat out there. We were technically in the concierge lounge because they have this like open area that opens up to the pool. So we could hear it all. And it was just really lovely. And then the rest of my quote unquote and we went to the Keys and we actually had drinks with another couple friend of mine. And it was just a lot of peopling. And there were two other couples or families in concierge that we knew. And one's from a previous cruise. Like it was just talking, I feel like, this whole cruise. And it was really nice to just socialize and sort of be with people. It was like a friends cruise, but not really booked that way, where it was just a bunch of, hanging out with different people. So I would say those were our entertainment.
That was fun. Ours was a little different because normally our kid spends a lot of time at the Edge or the kids club. And with him like being 13, but a week away from 14, he felt a little young for the Edge and a little old for Edge and a little young for Vibe. So he toured both and ended up just kind of hanging out with us. So we had checked off that lady by the pool dock in the Cove to go sit there, but we were all kind of hanging out and doing more family stuff. So all of our evening stuff, all of our like adult time, what's the game show? There were two game shows. Like
Match Your May and then whatever the other one is.
The Mind Reader one. We also had met one of your friends, Pat from the Patreon, and had drinks with them and done two of the nighttime shows there. And then we also did a family game show with our kid. We did the DVC gathering where Goofy came out. I actually went to the spa. I went to the spa raffle. I won a $50 thing from dancing, but the day of the embarkation day discount was actually a better discount. So I did that one. And then we played bingo twice. We need to get shirts that say "Shake It Up, Betty," because it was fun. It was a fun time. Yeah, we played shuffleboard. My kid played basketball. It was hot. It was really hot. So we didn't spend as much time like outside as we normally would, do a lot of walking, go to the pool, that kind of stuff. We kind of just did all the activities. Well, then of course, and then we got off the ship twice. So that will come at some point. Yeah, it's fun.
All right, let's move on to Lighthouse Point. We're going to start with Amy because it was your first time on the island. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your expectations were of the island and how that fell in reality once you actually got to see it?
It is. Okay, I'm looking at my pictures. Actually, it like exceeded my expectations, honestly. I really felt like I was expecting, a beautiful sandy beach. It was even more beautiful than I thought it would be. Everyone said how the sand is like this pink soft sand. It was like baby powder soft sand. I've never been at a beach that beautiful before. And the water was turquoise and clear. And even on the walk in, which I'm a big walker. I've walked thousands of miles so far this year. So 0.6 miles was not a big deal. But you kind of could look over the edge and it was probably a good 20 or more feet of water and you could see to the bottom. It was beautiful. Oh yeah. And then, okay, I knew there was a hiking path, which we did and we planned to do. I guess I wasn't sure what to expect about that. I really liked walking around to the beaches on all those boardwalks, which was a very cool way to get back to walk through the sand. And on the nature hike, it was just like it was a sandy area, but they had matted down like the walkways and stuff. So it was a really pleasant mile walk through. And there was like little signposts as you went to talk about the land crabs. I posted a video of the land crabs scurrying. You'd hear them, going around and then like you'd look for them and they'd be gone. And the land crabs and how important they are. They actually keep track of them and because they're so important to the ecosystem there. They keep track of like how many land crabs are on the island and make sure they're thriving in population, which they seem to be from what I heard and saw.
And that nature walk is all the way to the right on the beach, right?
Correct. So as you like get off the tram and go to the right, and then you go to the kids club on the Scuttles Cove, and then you go behind, and that's where the entry point to get onto the walkway is. And you go and you get to the end and there's like a lighthouse, you circle back around. And then when you look over, you can see the magic and get a picture of it, like kind of through the shrubs. So it's pretty cool. So I really liked that there was I guess we'll see with the bikes, what happens. That was just sort of disappeared off our reservation. There's no bikes on the island as far as we know. So I had booked it.
Technically, I guess the bikes, this is what I've heard from people that seem to know, the bikes are there. They are not ready
to ride
on the island. When you get to the tram stop, there's a sign for the bike path and the walking path, but then they have it closed off where you can't go. So you can even notice it, like the difference from when we were there, those bike path signs weren't visible from the tram, but now there is technically a path and like
Don't
a
go
marker basically for where the bike path and the running path would be. They're just, I think and they've paved more, but I think they're just not done enough to feel like it's ready to be done.
We saw that sign, the bike path is closed, when we were on the tram. Mm-hmm. And then we found, so we thought that the hiking path was closed. And then we talked to people, no, the hiking path is open, which is hard to find. You have to like look at the map and look behind and follow those little dotted lines and make sure that you ended up on the nature path. But when we came out of the nature path, we came out where that sign said, you can't go on this walkway. You know what that sign is when you see on the tram? That is where our exit was. So then we walked out. I'm like, oh, it says it's closed, but we were just walking from that direction. So I guess it's fine. And then you walked along the tram walkway and then you could see where the Scuttles Cove was. So I'm like, I think we go back to
the very end. It's still, there will eventually be a walking and bike path from the first tram stop.
Okay, cool. That'll be nice to not have to go. Although that little message, although they repeated it, was nice. The little message they were talking about all this stuff on the tram. Okay, so I guess that's a kind of exceeded expectations because I wasn't sure what to expect. It was absolutely beautiful. The water was warm. My tip was to go right and stay right. So when you exit the tram, go to the right. And even I had read someplace that like the cookies, not cookies, the two one had like 1,500 guests, and the first one, the one to the right, only had like 400. So,
but I think it depends, right? Because on our sailing, Dave and Blake waited in a huge line to get hot dogs and hamburgers. Well, cheeseburgers, because they don't have plain hamburgers. They got to work on that. But at True, and I went to True too, because that's where I had to go for my allergy meal. But they were doing something, so we just separated for lunch. And mine was empty.
Oh, ours was opposite. So and also maybe it depends on who's eating what, because those two had to wait in the long line for the chicken and ribs. And I went over to the seafood section and got the seafood bowl, which was delicious. I wanted more. I'm like, I need to go back and have more, but I was full. And so I did not. The seafood in it was so delicious. It was like scallops and shrimp and mussels and a lot of rice. So then I took a piece of the salmon from the side and threw it in the bowl and added more seafood to my bowl. So it was delicious. Everything was good. The corn looked like it wasn't going to be good. And they both clarified that it was not, boiled corn. It's fine. But yeah, heading to the right, way less crowded for us. Another tip, I don't know if this is allowed. I mean, I guess the chairs were on the other side of the berm. They were on like the chair area. And there's like these little wooden walkways to walk down to the beach. I just picked up 3 chairs and I lugged them over and I put them on the beach. So we had a place to sit. So it was fine. It was cute. There was a photographer who we love, Manuela or Manu on her badge is her nickname. And she got great pictures of us on the beach. And then we walked further. My husband he's a bird watcher. So he had a big camera and he got some of the shorebirds because on that far right side, there's not as many people. So like all the little shorebirds and stuff were around. So we got some cute video of the shorebirds. And then my son actually saw some of those cool stripy tropical fish, like by the coral reef. He had just goggles and would like go down, hold his breath. He's like, Mom, you could see them. They're all around in the coral reef. So we're hoping to get in some snorkeling on our next trip. I did see the parade or part of it, the Junkanoo celebration parade. We did not do the craft, but we did the parade. And I don't know, it was not a long enough day. I could have spent 2 days there. I could have gone sooner and stayed longer. And it was a beautiful day. We loved it.
Christy, what were your thoughts getting back to the island for a second time?
It is beautiful. And ours was a really cloudy day. So it wasn't that it was beautiful because of the sun glistening on everything, but she is still like that water. There is nothing better in my opinion. And I love that it's not too rough and that that it's deep enough. Like Castaway, you have to go out pretty far typically to get it to be deeper. And it just, yeah, I really enjoy it. And you can see, and that, like Amy said, the sand. So I think all of the beginning was fine. My concerns are still sort of my concerns where it is difficult for people with little children. And I think they didn't make it clear enough. Disney got away from paper, but I think it wouldn't have killed them to put some things on a paper so that people can see some notes, because they'll send you notes in the app, but most people didn't seem to read any of them. And most people didn't even know how to get to the app, because I was telling somebody about the platinum gift, like reminder that comes in the app. And they were like, what, where was this? And I never saw anything come up about a gift and like, there's a gift that people don't even know that they are supposed to get because they don't see
Look at the messages. Well, it's on the messaging
or even
part.
know how to get the messages that well.
Yeah, I saw DVC had sent me a message, and then I had started out as a cash account because I had my Disney gift cards to apply to my account. And they sent me a little message that said, oh, hey, when you hit, $300, you're going to be shut off. So I went down and gave them my gift cards and stuff. But so I saw my messages, but maybe I knew to look, or whenever I see a little like, why is there a little number 1 here? There's little, so that I would go look and see what the messages were. But there was no message about it, so they just got vaporized.
And then they didn't I don't know that there was a message to say that there were wagons and strollers available. And there were, but would everybody know with little kids that those wagons and strollers, or people that need assistance moving the people from point to point, would they know? I do believe that there was a message about going maybe to guest services for assistance if you needed on the walk to get a tram. But one of my friends was in a cabana, and it took them an hour and a half. There was a mobility issue, so they needed to have the golf cart take them. And it took an hour and a half of their day to get the golf cart. Okay. And that's not okay that's the only issue I have with the island, is that, people say at Castaway, there's a way, there's this or that. It takes a while. It takes at least like 40 minutes to get from the ship to the beach. And this is if you're kind of moving fast, at least a good half hour. So like, let's say you forgot something on the ship, forget it. Like you're not taking that hour-long trek there and back, right, to see the item that you forgot to get it. So that is my only real issue, is that it's like you have to take the 8-minute tram and I timed it. It was like 8 or 9 minutes from the tram stop to the next one. But Lake, they have it loading so well now. I think there's like 4 tram shuttles potentially, loading them quickly. They're sending them off. They have the next set right there. And that's in both directions, where they're loading and unloading quickly. So they've improved a lot from when we were first there in terms of figuring out that tram efficiency. And so that's really good.
Well, and I don't know how people would know. Like, I knew because we're like crazy planners and researchers.
Right, and
we watch
podcast listeners.
Right. And you kind of know to look, okay, there's a wagon if you have a kid with a bunch of stuff. There's the golf carts if you have a mobility problem. I just looks like it was about 9 minutes for us to walk. And then from the time that we got on the tram to the time we were at the beach, like 8 minutes. So,
but it takes at least 5 minutes or more or so
we just got lucky
the tram,
because we walked on and they like left right away. And then there was a huge parade of the golf carts with people both ways. Like on the way there, people kept, we were walking as fast as the golf carts, I think, because we would walk along, and by the time they got through, so I don't think they had, but they had a parade of them. They probably had 4 or 6.
Some things on the island though. Blake went to the play pavilion, which is sort of where the edge and the vibe in theory, but then there's general activities as well. But they did a scavenger hunt where you run around and like take pictures. They tell you to take pictures of certain things. And Dave followed, and there ended up being like 3 or 4 kids doing it. They had tons of fun. They did this while I went to get my food in True too. Because if you remember in June, they said I could eat at any by the second day of the Lighthouse stop, we could eat at any beach. And for this trip, I could only eat at True too, unless I was in a cabana, and then they would have brought my food to the cabanas, but I wasn't in a cabana. Then there was a character dance party that Dave and Blake went to, and like Goofy and Pluto and Chippendale, and they had like little games. It was something like pass the sponge and ring it out and something, but like that was a lot of fun for them. So And then Dave was saying too, just, he was thinking about the island as well, that splash pad on the island, which I feel like didn't get a lot of use out of this trip versus like when we were there in June. But that splash pad is so much better. And there does appear to be seating in the areas now around it, which I think they didn't really have. Like they have picnic tables down there now by the splash pad. And so like, I think that's a big improvement, especially like if you were going to use the splash pad at Castaway, it has like, 4 shooting spigots and that's it. So it's nice to have like a full proper splash pad. So she's just beautiful.
Beautiful. They need to just allow more time on the island to allow for the getting back and forth.
Well, yeah, because it didn't even open until 10:30 for us. So, but 10:30. I was running, so I finished running at 10:30 anyway.
Yeah,
it was fun though. It was fun running and watching them set up the island. And then just as we've talked about this with running before, if they're docking or if they're doing drills, they're going to shut off part of the ship. So the front was shut off because like you couldn't get all the way through. But when you can get all the way through on the Magic, it's so cool because you actually see the front of the ship and you see where they like store the big equipment and it's
the
just
big ropes and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, you get to see it all while you're doing your running track. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was super fun to sort of watch them set up, but I feel like, and they're ready to go. They're ready to set up. They had all, they have all those trucks and all the things ready, but it still takes them a while. And I guess the cruise director said that the Bahamian government has to like approve our ship. They have to clear us.
Well, maybe because Castaway is Disney's own island and this is on Eleuthera. Other parts, other people, and it felt like Nassau where you had to get cleared. They made that same announcement for us.
Yeah. Was your port arrival time 10:30 too, or all?
It was
whatever.
Yeah, 10:30.
Moving on, you also mentioned that you got off the ship in Nassau. What did we have booked for that day?
Yeah, so my husband, who, I'm the planner, but he took the reins on this and he booked a private excursion with Bahama Outdoors for a bird watching excursion. And we highly recommend this company. It's called Bahamas Outdoors LLC. It was cheap. I mean, I want to say it was like maybe $79 a person for a half day excursion. She had water for us and she had like granola bars and raisins and nuts if we needed a little snack. But my husband is a big bird watcher, brought his big camera and saw a little over 30 different species of birds, including 9 life birds, which if you guys don't know, a life bird is a bird that you've never seen before in your life. And so now it's on your list of birds you've seen. So he got 9 new life birds and about 30 different species. So my son and I went also. It was hot. It was so hot. So we had stopped in a little air conditioned area while she knew her way around. Like we were in neighborhoods, we were by this resort area and she kind of knew what we wanted to see. And it was like, she took us to this neighborhood where there's this bird and you're like in someone's backyard almost like right along the side and there's birds in these trees. And then she took us to a national park also. So it was a very cool, lots of hiking. We got to see lots of cool plants and flowers and then all the birds. So it was a fun day.
Where did they pick you up from?
We met by that statue. So you like walk across the street from the port area and that square where it says like 51st anniversary, that building right there. That's where she was standing there. Her name was Lillian, was our guide. And she had my kid, of course, I tell him all this, bring this. He's like, I forgot my sunglasses and my hat and, all this. So she had a hat for him and which was nice. And she had binoculars for us. We didn't have to drag them from Michigan. And it was a really fun excursion day. It was hot, but it was really enjoyable. And then we actually were hungry. So we ate in the port and had Bahamian food, which was kind of fun to do. And then walked around a little bit, got a couple of souvenirs, gifts from my parents for watching the cats. And then we got back on board.
What a unique excursion to do.
Yeah, it was very unique because everything is like, all the same. You get on a boat, it's a party boat, and they play the music, you have the rum punch, or you're doing a snorkeling. And this was kind of fun to just get to see the national parks and all the different plants and flowers. And it was a fun day.
Yeah, we hear a lot about staying on the ship in Nassau. So how cool is it to hear of all of these unique itineraries you can do especially when Nassau really has your largest variety of excursions.
Before we leave Nassau really quick, I guess I want to point out that in Concierge, they'll do a character meet and greet. And what's interesting on this 3-night cruise, they did it at 10:30 in the morning on the Nassau day. So like if you were out doing an excursion, you would miss it. So I guess I would just keep that in mind if you are doing Concierge and if it is something that you're interested in, which is weird that they didn't just do it like at 4:30 or right. That could be a time that's before dinner that everybody could go to. But one of the hosts did say that nobody in Concierge was getting off. Like he'll ask, like, do you have excursions? And I don't know that would have made a difference, but because I think they asked us later whether we had excursions, but was at 10:30 that morning.
Awesome. Well, any other final thoughts before we kind of wrap this up?
Oh, Blake and Dave did the aquadunk for the first time. Well, Blake had done it, or Dave had done it before, but Blake did it. And he said it was terrifying and exciting. And so the second dinner, or that dinner the last night, got done so quickly. And Blake was like, oh, we didn't get to go on the aquadunk because they went back to the ship. Like when we got back from Lighthouse Point, they were going to go, and they actually went right up to go on the aquadunk. And then there was lightning in the area. So the aquadunk was closed. And then Blake was going to like go do something else that also closed because of the same bad weather. I looked and I was like, well, you have 14 minutes. The aquadunk closes. They went from dinner upstairs, changed, went to the bathroom, I guess, ran to the aquadunk, and were able to go on it twice before it closed.
We wanted to do it, but we didn't. I would have been terrified, but I would have done it anyways. And it was like hot, and we just weren't on the pool deck, and we were just doing all the other stuff. And then our time outside was like the beach time. So and then the bird time. So we just didn't next time. That's why you have more cruises.
That's right.
I will tell you one thing that I liked. It was the same as on the Magic, was the live piano bar music. Oh, and yes, we did on the Wonder, we did the Cadillac Lounge, and this we did Keys. And it was fun because it was Motown artists playing the piano, and we're from Motown, so it was kind of fun. And he was playing all the music we know. We were singing along, but this was my best deal ever on Disney Cruise. I got the sommelier bin, which is $13. You pick if you want a sparkling, a white, or a red. And he brought it, and it was pretty full. I mean, it was like a big pour. I have a picture, Facebook group. And after I tasted it, he said, okay, do you want to know what it is? And I said, yeah, tell me what it is. And it was a glass of Dom Perignon, which I've never had in my entire life. $58 a glass. So we had fancy champagne for only $13, which was fun.
And you know what's funny? My friend, we had not happy hour, but we went up there to like music and talking and drinks one night. And she wanted the sommelier bin, but they would not let her pick her type. It was, and that was in the Keys. And she was like, yes, you can have the sommelier bin, but you can't pick red. You can't pick white. You can't pick sparkling. And that would have been like 4 days after you went.
Yeah. And they tried to tell me that on the Wish once in what's the Magnolia one. And I said, oh, no, sparkling, please. All I like. And they brought me sparkling, but they were trying to tell me the same thing. I'm like, well, don't bring me red because my face will turn red. And if you bring me a white, I would be okay with it, but I'd probably be sad. And I'd really like a sparkling.
I hear how it's
talked them into it. I think it's a case by case basis.
Christy, anything else before I take us out here?
Only that disembarking was super easy. It was really like they have the facial recognition there too. I wasn't sure if they would. I don't know. We must have left at the right time, but at 8:15 there was like nobody leaving. It was really easy.
So easy. And the airport's super close. So we walked off, we had our backpacks and just like one little suitcase that had our toiletries, this little, rayon suitcase. And I said, we've got our passports, and they're like, you don't need them. Just keep going. And, we went to the walk through and they took our picture or put your face in front of that thing and off we went. So it was easy process.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap us up here. Amy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing you and your family's experience in the Magic. And Christy, thank you so much for coming on and continuing to experience your sailings on Disney Cruise Line. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Christy and Amy for coming on and sharing their experiences on the Disney Magic and Lighthouse Point. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, from behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travel. So we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.